world is just the way it is, and it's certainly filled with plenty of prosperity and plenty of abundance. It's amazing that this little planet of ours just circulates in the midst of this great void and spins around and produces enough food to take care of everybody, all 7 or 8 billion of us that are on here every single day, day in and day out, and then replants the waste that we have and starts the whole process all over again. There's an endless flow of abundance that the universe is and that is ours, and we are products of that. We are all pieces of that abundance. And what happens is we came from that place, and then we show up here, and we start believing in scarcity, and we start believing in lacks, and we start thinking in terms of these lacks and shortages. And before you know it, we start attracting what we think about, because one of the real laws of the universe is that you get what you think about, whether you want it or not. And if you're thinking about what's missing, if you're thinking about what's wrong, if you think about what used to be, what you can't get, if you're thinking about how bad your luck is or how terrible the economy is, if these are things that take up a lot of the energy of your life and your thoughts, you'll find yourself attracting them, not so much because it just shows up in your life, but because that's what you act upon, because we act upon what we think about. And there are some people who go through their life and they're able to keep their thoughts on what they would like to have in their life. They keep their thoughts on having it show up. They believe that it's on its way. They don't put their attention on what's missing or what used to be or what other people think they ought to have. They have a different mindset. And we all live in this. It's amazing. We all live in the same universe. And some people believe that it's a universe that has nothing in it, and it certainly has no opportunities in it for me, and I can't get anything done. And other people living in the very same universe believe that they can attract it into their life. And we oftentimes call these people lucky, and we call them people who are just fortunate, or that they just happen to be in the right place at the right time, and God smiled down on them, and so on. But there's really something very, very powerful for each and every one of us when we understand that we can have this. I've often told the story of living in an orphanage when I was a little boy, and always having money in my pocket, always knowing how to be able to attract things into my life, because I guess I just had a knowing, even when I came in, that I was entitled to have what I put my thoughts on. And while I watched all the other kids, always talking about not being able to have this or not being able to have that, I just went about collecting soda pop bottles, or going shoveling people's snow, or cutting their grass for them, or carrying out their ashes, because we used to have coal furnaces all over the neighborhoods where I lived in Mount Clemens, Michigan. And I was able to act upon what I was thinking about, which is what I wanted to create for myself in my life. I remember being about 13 when my mother got us all back together, and I had a paper out, and I had saved and saved and saved and saved, and I got a brand new bicycle, a green bicycle. It was a Raleigh. And I was the most excited kid because I finally had a bike that I could actually pump the tires, and it would be easy to ride through the neighborhoods delivering my papers and so on. And the second day that I got it, it was stolen right out in front of Steve King's house on Moross and Dupre in Detroit. And I walked out there and no bicycle. And I remember going back, and my mother said, I said my bicycle's been stolen, and and everybody was all upset, and I was up and counting the amount of money that I had, and figuring out a way to go back down to the store where I had bought that bicycle, and seeing if I could get the Schwinn, which is one that I really wanted. And I put $8 or $10 down on it. I think the total cost of the bike was about $40. And made an agreement with the proprietor of the Schwinn store to allow me to have the bike. In other words, rather than thinking about, oh my God, I don't have a bicycle now, poor me. And I'm telling you, I was 13 years old delivering the Detroit News in the afternoon. I had another bike the very next day, because my thoughts were on, this is what I'm going to attract, and I'm going to be able to create it. And once I realized that it was gone. And that's very interesting, because that's still the way I operate to this day at the age of 66. If something disappears in my life, it wasn't too long ago, then I had an automobile stolen, which was a very, very strange experience. And the only thing I was really upset about is that I missed my yoga class that day, because by the next afternoon I had another car. And I just went out there and figured out a way to make it happen. And this is the law of abundance. This is the law of attraction. This is the law of prosperity. It basically boils down to put your thoughts, put your energy, put your attention on what you intend to create. And you want to know, I know there's people out there listening who are saying, well, that's easy for you to say. You're rich and you're famous and you've got this and you've got that. But this is the reason that I am in this place in my life, is because I've always thought this way, and that has always worked for me from the time. I can never remember in all the 66 years of my life And working since I was 8 or 9 years old, I can never remember being unemployed, even though there were times when other people around me, even members of my own family, even my own brothers, were down there trying to figure out unemployment insurance when we were in depressions and things like that. It just was never a part of the consciousness that I brought to it. And the people who live in the worst of circumstances need to know that they've got to begin to change the way they look at things. And when you change the way you look at your life and what opportunities you have and what you can create for yourself, the world that you look at begins to change. That's how I see prosperity.